Hello and welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I am your host, Josh, and I am here with three others tonight. Of course, we have Jacob and
He's
Ryan.
alive!
Yes, Jacob is alive,
I'm
contrary to
alive.
popular belief. At least I think he is.
I'm
And
alive.
tonight we also have a special guest tonight, a longtime friend of mine, Zach Adams,
Hello.
and he
Hello.
is joining us tonight for tonight's topic, mostly being about Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild 2, all of that sort of thing. We're kind of mushing some of that together. But he's a big Zelda fan, so I thought he would be a great pick for this one. So how you doing, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good. How are y'all?
I'm pretty good. Just kind of, I'm glad that Jacob is doing all right, is in good health. I realized that the address that I sent that package to was actually his old address. I don't have his new address, so yeah. Hopefully everything's okay over at that old address.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that one. You took my joke. I was going to say something about him being a ghost, but we'll just go with that. Anyhow, we apologize to anyone who was harmed in the making of all of this nonsense.
You came up to my door, and I've come out as a Wrinkly Kong incarnation of Jacob, and I'm here for the episode.
He is here to help you find your next golden bananas.
That's right.
All right. Well, with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into what we are Radical Rexing about. All right. So the way we usually do this here, we will have our guest go first. So Zach, what are you Radical Rexing about today?
Well, honestly, the biggest thing is I work a lot. I go to work in the morning and I stay pretty late. And I come home, and most of the time I will fall asleep and get up and do it all over again. I game when I can. Nothing in particular. I jump around between Age of Calamity here lately, and been playing Fortnite with you, Josh, and a few others. So that's been fun getting together that way. And honestly, that's pretty much it. Work, sleep, and playing games when I can.
Yeah, we have been a lot. A lot of Fortnite, which is something I definitely never thought I'd be saying, like I've said before. And Zach's a big reason for that.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian. I want to give more credit to the Mandalorian, just to be kind of a jerk. But
I'm a big Chronicles of Narnia fan. I've recently watched all three. They're on Disney Plus. There you go.
It makes me sad that you say all three and that's it. I wish there was more.
I know. I want it more. They need to do more.
There's 7 books, right?
Silver Chair may be a little weird, but the rest of them are great.
That's actually a series, one of the only book series I've read like all of, I think. It's been a while.
I actually have them, and I have never read them. I know. Shame on me. Shame on me.
I had a book that had all of them in it. Like, it was a big, thick book. Pretty good.
Oddly enough, I think Magician's Nephew is probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
It's cool. Well, anyhow, Ryan, how about you today?
Well, I just down to the wire, just an hour before we started recording, I rolled the true credits. I'm assuming they're true credits anyway. I got the character. I know this is gonna be spoilers later in the episode, but I don't want to just blow it all right here, So, but other than that, not a whole lot's been going on. I did get Captain Toad Treasure Tracker for like less than $5 with the DLC. It was a price error at Walmart, and sent the Nos Krew's way, and a couple other people were able to pick it up. So it's pretty cool. I haven't played it yet. There's a lot of games in my backlog that I need to play. But this AOC has been taking up all of my time lately, and I've been enjoying every minute of it. But we'll get into that in the topic.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. Jacob, how about you?
Well, I'm back for the first time in a couple weeks. First time this year. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm doing good. I have been able to beat Age of Calamity as well, at least the main stuff, and that was really fun. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm playing Ni no Kuni right now. Not very far, but I really enjoy what I've done, and it's been really, really fun because my daughter, all the kids, were just glued to the television when I turned it on this past weekend for the first time. I think they're really amazed at a game that looks like a full-on cartoon for the most part, and especially in those cutscenes, and then I'm able to control it and play it. I think they're really fascinated, especially my daughter. And it was really funny. I let her have the controller when I went to this open area. It's kind of the to go between towns, and that's where you'll have to grind and defeat random enemies. And she was doing that, and she knows how to button mash A. So I just let her. She leveled me up a couple levels. So I'm thinking if I ever need a grind in the game, I'm just gonna give her the controller and let her just hit A, and they'll get me through the boring parts of a game. But that game is really it's been fun so far. I'm not too deep into it to give a fair judgment, but I like what I've done so far. I started working out today again. Really excited. I've been off the rails on that for too long. It's time to get back into the way I used to be, and I used to work out 6 days a week, about 2 to 3 hours a day, and track my meals. And I'm not going to go as full on trainer mode, Jacob, as I used to be when I was a personal trainer, but doing what I can with life as a single father of two, and a new relationship with my girlfriend, and college, and working full time. So just doing what I can to get back at it. Time to get back in shape a bit. So other than that, that's really what I'm Radical Rexing about. I'm excited to talk about this game. I'm super stoked for it.
Nice. I'm glad I finally know how to pronounce the name of that game. I think I've actually, what was it? Yeah, you're gonna have to say it again. Ni no Kuni. Thank you. So yeah,
I say Ni no Kuni, and that's the right way.
And Ni no Kuni. Forget it. I'm not even gonna try. I'd say it wrong anyway. I'm from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Now, as for me,
hey, so am I.
Yeah. I don't feel like. Well, I don't know. We both kind of have an accent, I guess. Now, as for myself, one of the biggest things I'm excited about right now that just honestly it sounds kind of depressing, but just kind of keeps me going when I know this is coming, is we are planning for a Disney trip in March. Walt Disney World. For anybody who's not on the East Coast. So yeah, I'm always super excited about that. That's one of my favorite places to go. I know it might be silly to some or whatever, but that's just since I was a kid and all the memories I have there. I don't really get to do it very much now. Obviously, I'm not near it, so I don't really get to be a part of it. But try to make it back every bit we can. And of course, we'll be taking our 6-year-old and my wife. So I'm really looking forward to that. And part of that has kind of got me into a Star Wars. I don't know what the word for it is, but basically we're watching a lot of Star Wars. Going through all the movies because my kid hadn't seen them all before, and we actually were already in the middle of watching Star Wars Rebels, and we hadn't finished it. So we're at to the point chronologically where we're gonna go ahead and wrap that up, and then we're gonna watch the rest of the movies before March with her. But yeah, I've always loved it, but right now it's just really hitting a nerve, where we're just really watching all of it and trying to get through all of it. So that's been fun. Looking forward to that. They have that new Star Wars area there. I won't go all into it, but definitely excited about that.
The green milk is really good.
We've even got reservations to the cantina there. I'm really excited for that. But
awesome.
Yeah. Now, other than that, yeah, like Ryan said, I got the Captain Toad for $4 yesterday, the DLC and all that, and I had it on the Wii U. That's why I never got it on the Switch, even though I really wanted it on there, especially with some of the extra Odyssey stuff. But really glad I got it for what I did. I haven't played it a whole lot yet. Me and my daughter sat down and played a few of the levels co-op, and that was fun. I don't think you could do that on the Wii U version, so that was cool. The camera's a little hard to fight between two people, but it it works. And other than that, I guess it's worth mentioning. Like Jacob said, he said he'd been sort of working out and stuff again. I'm actually trying to lose a few pounds myself. He's probably going more for muscle, where I'm just trying to lose some of the excess fat here. Kind of before Disney, it's sort of my goal. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. I've been eating a little bit healthier the past couple of days. Still haven't exercised as much as I could have, but I'm getting there. I just want to more comfortably fit in some of my clothes the way I was before some of the quarantine stuff. But yeah, that is about it. So I don't want to waste too much more time. But before we get into the topic, we do have one more thing. We have 2 voicemails, it looks like, to go through. So we will go ahead and start rolling those, and then we will go into the topic.
Guys, what is up? This is Ryan from Massachusetts. First off, thanks for taking my call. And, work's been super crazy busy, but that's besides the fact because I'm radical rexing right now. So I've been grinding Smash lately, trying to get Mario, Diddy Kong, and Link all in Elite Smash. If that makes me, sound awful Smash player, sorry. But, yeah, you guys just had the Nintendo Power episode. Sorry I didn't call in for that. I didn't really have any memories for that other than, I never subscribed, but I always loved looking at the box art and seeing a whole different universe of the characters that I like playing, such as like Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country. But hey, thanks for taking my call, and just keep doing great things for the show. You guys are building a great community. I'm telling my friends about you, and just keep rocking. Get it. See you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, I don't know if it would mean much to you, but maybe go back and check out some of those old Nintendo Power magazines. Because actually, I go back every once in a while, and I've taken a look at some of them, and it's just kind of neat to go and look back at things. Even for me, even some of the stuff I don't remember as well, it's kind of neat to go back and just kind of see how it was. Yeah, so thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much for shouting out the show to people and getting people introduced to what we do. It's we love what we do and we love to share it with you guys. So thank you.
Definitely, Ryan. Good to hear from you, man.
We have got one more here. Let's go.
You may have heard of this guy. He's been on the show a couple times. So let's get playing on it.
Hey guys, it's Chris. Just wanted to say congratulations to our newest host, Jacob Zombie. I hear that he smells pretty bad, but hopefully he has a lot to contribute to the conversation, so just something to deal with. So congrats to you, Jacob Zombie. I also wanted to say that I've been playing Clubhouse games for like 3 hours now, and I finally just beat Impossible Mode. So I am now officially the master of Mancala. So if anyone is interested in playing me in Mancala, feel free to hit me up if you feel like losing. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a great show. I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
All right.
When he said, I'm sure he smells bad, he totally missed a chance of saying, but that shouldn't be too different than normal. That's what I was expecting. I was a little disappointed he didn't say that.
So he did say something about the conversation. At first, I thought he said conversation. I'm like, oh, that kind of fits in with the whole Wrinkly Kong theme.
That's what I was going to say. This is a conversation. And by the way, I just worked out, so I only smell bad from that.
He's not dead.
And I'm not dead. I'm alive. Listen, we all know a special someone has declared fake news on the world, and this is fake news. I never died. I'm alive. Twitter has shut me up, but I'm alive and I'm here. So take it for real. Okay. This is the real news source. I'm alive.
That's okay. Facebook has me in jail.
It's true. Facebook has put you in jail.
Yes, if no one sees me posting to the group like I normally would, it's because Facebook has decided I'm not allowed to. So I'll be back in about a week. I don't know why. But anyhow, Chris, thanks for calling in. And let's go ahead and get to the topic. We are talking about Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. All right, everybody. So, got a handful of things here we kind of want to go over with it. I will go ahead and say, Ryan mentioned it earlier as well. Right now, we're going to keep things pretty spoiler free. Some of the early stuff, maybe some of the first few characters and things like that, where the story kind of starts. But we're mostly going to keep that spoiler free for everybody. Now, in some of the later parts of the episode, and we will warn you again, we'll try to put a time stamp and all of that. We may sort of jump into some of the spoilers to talk about some of the story and things like that. But again, we'll warn you when it gets there. So yeah, I wanted to go ahead and start just with saying, kind of comparing it some to the original Hyrule Warriors, if that's all right. Did you all play the original as well?
I did not. I own it. I own both versions, actually.
I've got the 3DS one too.
I have the Wii U version. I don't have the greatest memories with it, but I do have it, and I did beat the main campaign, which was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, that was one I did have on. I had the Wii U and the 3DS version. We played the crap out of it on the Wii U. It's actually one of the ones that my wife likes to jump in on co-op with me. It's kind of one that's you can sort of go in, sort of like this one. You can go in sometimes and just mindlessly go into some battles and just kind of rake through like hundreds of bad guys. But yeah, we put a good bit of time into it. There's definitely some comparisons to be made with that one and this one. Some good and some bad, and I definitely want to hear some of your all's thoughts. For me, with this one, it's hard for me to say which one I actually like better. I kind of want to say Age of Calamity. I do like the story, the way it goes about that a lot better. And the first one I felt like kind of just seemed like a goofy fan fiction. I mean, I like seeing a lot of the different characters from the different games come together, but it just, especially the extra characters like Sia and them, just did not click with me. So I really liked how this one felt more focused. It felt more like they were continuing to build some of the lore that they've already started from Breath of the Wild and potentially some stuff into the sequel. Again, I don't want to say too much there yet, but so I really liked how they did that. There's other little aspects that I'm not as crazy over. I feel like there was maybe a little bit more character variety in the first one. Again, without going too deep into that. So I kind of missed out on that. Another thing was just sort of the way the map was a little bit confusing. It was one big map. There was like 100 stores for some reason. So that was a little messy. The little things like that. For the most part, though, like the gameplay wasn't all that different. There was some moments where, well, I guess I could say that with the first one too. Some of it, it's like, oh, this will be easy, and you get in there and it's like ridiculously difficult, and it requires grinding or something. But yeah, to kind of compare the two, like if you played the first one and you liked it, I think you'll still very much like this one, especially if you have that connection to Breath of the Wild. So what do you all think?
As far as the gameplay goes, I felt like it was a mix between like the way Breath of the Wild played and then how the first Hyrule Warriors played. It took some getting used to for sure, especially like what you said about the map, Josh. I both like it and maybe kind of disliked it at the same time. I like that it paid tribute to Breath of the Wild. I thought that was the way it looked, just even the audio, just from how you go from different things on the menu and that kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. I did find it maybe kind of confusing to wait, where am I going? What am I looking at? Just because it looked like the Breath of the Wild map, but yeah. So I liked it, kind of disliked it. I like how the characters play. They feel very fluid, for lack of better words. And there's a lot of variety there. I feel between the different characters and whatnot. Not that there wasn't in the first Hyrule Warriors game, but I don't know. This because it borrowed from the Breath of the Wild story, or added to that rather. I don't know. It feels like the way those characters play in Age of Calamity. I don't know. It just seems better to me. But yeah.
So I heard that there was a ton of content in the first one for Hyrule Warriors.
Oh gosh.
And there was a lot of like weird stuff. I heard a lot of complaints about Tingle being the worst character in the game. I don't know if this game really has a terrible character in it.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, okay, yes, there is one that is multiple depending on how you look at it, but
yeah.
I can see that, and I noticed even in the ending they left that character out in the but yeah. But so I was thinking of like a certain other character that's kind of a joke character, but actually was pretty viable. But
right.
Yeah. But other than that, like, you know, there was a story like in both of them. I think this one's a little more canon than the older one. Again, I'm not speaking from experience, more from what I've heard in passing. I'm kind of curious to see how the Zoras feel. I don't know how many are in there. I'm assuming that Princess Ruto is in there for the original one, but I'm kind of curious to see how they handle differently and how they handle somewhat the same as the Zoras that are in this game. So
she is, yeah.
Well, if I may say on that, Princess Rito, I think that's her name. She was in the first one, and there's a few moves that Mipha has in Age of Calamity that kind of reminded me of Princess Ruto in the first Hyrule Warriors. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of the same with like Daruk and wow,
Darunia.
I just Darunia, thank you.
Darunia.
Wow, I'm ashamed of myself. I went blank. The Gorons are like
shame
my
on
favorite
you, man. Shame
species out of this. But yeah, I think that lines up pretty well. Jacob, did you have any kind of thoughts between the two games?
The first one, compared to Age of Calamity, I mean, they felt exactly almost the same gameplay wise to me, but the story is 100 times better in Age of Calamity than it is the first one, though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, and there's like the villain isn't basically 10% clothed either, so we're okay.
Yeah, I hear you. Like I said, I looking back, like I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't want to sound like I didn't like the first one, but it just the extra characters, the original characters, I guess, and that I could have done without. Like Lana wasn't too bad, but I don't know. The whole premise was just kind of weird, and it didn't feel even very Zelda-like. It felt like a fan fiction.
They just got to go off the walls with that one, you know, and this one I felt like they were very. Although they did more than I thought they would, I felt like they were very boxed in with what they could do, which made it seem leveled down and appropriate, you know.
How did Linkle turn out? I heard that I know they pushed that for a little bit, like saying, "Hey, there's a female version of Link." Like
terrible. I mean, it's flat out a joke.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like I don't want to fully, I guess, spoil the first game either in case somebody goes back, but she's kind of got a sad story that's just about her, and she doesn't really do anything of any importance.
Okay.
She's just kind of it's almost
just
like it really is there as a joke. Like she's kind of silly, which is fine, but there's just not really much of a purpose for it. Like I don't know. Yeah, you'll have to.
She was there to appease the people who wanted a female playable character. That's all.
That's kind of what I feel like it was, which is kind of. I feel like they could have done better.
People who were fans of Link's crossbow training. That's got
right.
Hey, I was a fan. No.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
it was a fun little game. I'm getting a little off topic. I'm sorry.
You know, it's for that the alternate universe game, the Legend of Linkle, starring Zelda.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. So yeah, I guess with this, we've already played what I think we've all played. We've at least gotten to the end of the main story, correct?
Yes.
Now, without going too far into the spoilers, did you all have a favorite? I can't say like a favorite character yet, but did you all have sort of like a favorite champion? Because I know that's sort of encapsulates a lot of the variety, I guess, between there being a Rito and a Goron and all of that. Was there one there you sort of preferred, or one that sort of annoyed you to use, so to speak?
I'll go first.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, outside of Link, I'm a traditionalist. So for the record, like, I know I don't probably fit the mold that most people do, but like, I love playing as Link as my number. Like, the game's about Link. Link's the hero. He's the main character. So like, it really bothers me if I go and I like say you fight, Calamity Ganon with Mipha. I want to beat him with Link because like that's what would really happen in the story. However, outside of Link, if I had to choose any of like the 4 main champions, I'm a bit of a bruiser. I loved Daruk. I thought he was a beast. I loved mowing down on the giant moblins, the tall ones. Like, you normally, like with the other characters, you have to get them and break down their meters before you really could like do some massive damage. And I was pounding these dudes down before their meters were even broke, and they were almost dead just by regular hits from Daruk. So I thought that was really cool. I just loved how he felt like like the Hulk of the bunch. So that was fun. I like that.
I'd have to, if I could jump in, I'd actually have to agree on that one with Daruk. I always like the Gorons anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just felt fun to play as. Like, and when you'd run, some of them do kind of like funky animations when they go to run. That sometimes can be problematic. But the role I feel like worked really well. I don't know if you're really moving any faster than anyone else, but it sort of felt like it. And just as extra moves and stuff you get to unlock over time, I thought felt really nice. Weren't real complicated or kind of awkward. Like, they didn't feel as gimmicky as some other characters, so I really appreciated that. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Ryan.
Fish waifu's best waifu. I mean.
Okay, next.
He said waifu. You're off. I'm kidding.
I really liked how swift that Mipha is, and just how she kind of dances across the battlefield, and like how she swims and everything. Like, it's so fluid and so poetic even. I like that in contrast to another character that's similar, but also I like both of them for both of their presentations. I've always liked the Zoras, so like playing as actually becoming a Zora originally, and Majora's Mask was amazing.
That was
cool. That was one of the coolest things. So like, it's always stuck with me, and so like being able to play as them again was great.
I do agree that Mipha felt really, no pun intended, fluid to move. She did feel good the way she moved around the battlefield.
Through the air.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that was a bit weird, but yeah,
it was.
It was cool to have that. Now I will say, attack speed boost on her is amazing.
And I thought it was cool how like you could basically just shoot like a little whirlpool warp pool thing, and you could just hit the ZR button, you just pop up through it, and you can really hit people in the head and get headshots in. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's actually my wife's favorite one to use in this game,
too.
and like, yeah, the healing. That's one reason why that's come in handy a lot, because even if you're playing co-op, like if she's standing, if I'm close to her when she uses like her special move, it'll give me some of my hearts back too. So that's it's not much, but when you're in a pinch, like it can give you that heart or two that keeps you alive. So that's really good. Zach, I think I know your answer, but what you got?
I might surprise you. Honestly, I feel like I really like Urbosa. Kind of for the same reasons Ryan did. I feel like, and I've heard people describe her as this, just the way she moves around, the way she attacks, it's like a beautiful dance. Just the whole element of lightning, and just that, I don't know. It's kind of like how I pick Game & Watch as my main in Smash Brothers. I don't know why I like them. I just do. That's kind of how I feel about Urbosa. She just, I don't know. There's just something to her. Just the way she moves, her combos, how that all sets up. She's good. She's good.
Actually, you for the least out of the 4 main.
Your least favorite?
I don't know if she's my least favorite. I used her the least though. She's not even like. Yeah. She's very low. I barely leveled her up. I don't know. I just didn't really have a desire to play with her that much.
Rivali is my least favorite champion to play as. Yeah.
I think Daruk is probably my least favorite, but Rivali is pretty close. He kind of grew on me as he got stronger, like got more combos and stuff. Like then it started feeling a little bit. I think I dislike another similar character more than I do Rivali, but
I think I
I thought Rivali was fun at first, but then he got to be, I don't know, kind of complicated to control. So he
does better in the air than on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. His ground moveset is very limited, and yeah.
I felt kind of cheap though if I just camped out in the sky with him, honestly.
Yeah.
So I didn't use him too much. He's barely leveled up in my game too.
I think the problem
characters evenly leveled up. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
I think my problem with Rivali, and Danielle she doesn't use him at all because of this, is when you're moving, when he starts flying, it just sort of, it feels jerky. Like the way he looks like he's flying doesn't feel like, or it doesn't control the way it looks like it should, if that makes sense.
I could see that.
And it's hard to see also at split screen. Like the camera just does not like that. It just sort of stares at the ground.
That's a topic we can bring up later.
Yes.
We'll definitely hammer that one home.
Yeah, we'll save some of that then. But yeah, and Zach, I agree with you on Orbosa too. Like she's super cool to use. There's also another aspect to her that I think is cool. I don't know if that counts as a spoiler, so I won't say just yet. But yeah, the lightning and all of that is super neat. I think the only thing that I wasn't huge on with her, and I run into this with a couple different characters, is like having to manage the meter, because it's just something else to think about. Hers isn't that bad. Like I never felt like I completely understood Impa's gimmick or whatever.
Okay.
Like I like Impa a lot. Impa's really cool. I just don't feel like I completely get her gimmick. But like Urbosa's got that meter, but it is at least easy to understand.
Was there any other? Urbosa had the ability to redraw in the sparks around her and charge up her meter faster, which was really cool.
I did not.
Yeah, when you use like power attacks, there's like sparks that surround her, and you can actually just draw them back in to gain your power meter back faster.
Know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Cool. I guess why I mentioned it with Impa, do you all kind of get her gimmick? I feel like I'm one of the only people.
Oh yeah, I totally get that one.
I feel like maybe it's just me, and I don't have a good feel for the button presses exactly, but I do get it. You hit the one button to set up the symbol. You go and you absorb it, and I get that. I just don't have the best feel for it. But I love powering her up, get all three symbols lit up. Man, she can really lay on the damage, and it's fun. You can really get that weak point gauge down quick.
Yeah,
she is my she's the one that I lean into heavily for collecting materials. Like her weapon is all about picking up the materials from all the different locations and like specialty ones and stuff like that. That's all she is. She's basically for farming items. But as I've been playing and farming items, she's really grown on me. At first I wouldn't touch her at all, mainly because a lot of people said she's the best. And I'm like, oh, I'll try other characters because I don't know if I like her, but she's grown on me for sure.
I liked her a lot. I thought she was really cool.
Oh yeah, she'd be a great Smash Brothers edition if they would ever add another one, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah.
And that version of Impa. That version of Impa.
Yeah.
Well, I guess since we're talking about the early characters, we've kind of mentioned Link as well. I think the only one that, without getting again into spoilers, really, only character would be Zelda. I don't know what I can say here.
I liked Zelda. I know that her moves are very different and like stiff and how you trigger everything, so it was a bit slow, but it's calculated for sure. It doesn't quite flow like any other character, and she also has some alternate playing styles that lend itself almost the same. I mean, I don't know which I prefer, honestly. I wanted to really drive a lot of Zelda's moves early in the game, but I started to gravitate away from her after a while until like she got later in the story and became like a plot sticking point, and then I picked her up a little bit more and played her. But she's still fun. She's just so like
it's
very like gimmicky and kind of bizarre, and her disjointed in her movements at first.
Maybe she shouldn't even have been playable then, like honestly. I mean at the start.
Yeah, that for me, that weapon she starts with is it always confused me because you have the runes you can use with any character anyway,
And they
and
play differently
she
with
still
each
has
character.
those, but her moves are those.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't use the meter, and it's there's just so much going on the screen when she's using those moves, and then you can still use the bombs outside of that, for instance. For me, it was just too much going on the screen at once. Just for what was considered a little move, so to speak. It's her that weapon of hers just sort of confused me. I'm not really a big fan of it.
I don't think that her standard attacks really caused any of the effects that the special attacks did, though, like freezing in the
Yeah,
water or anything like that, or setting like bombs. The bombs or whatever wouldn't necessarily set off the shield, like
right.
break the shields and stuff like that. But still, it's weird. But it grew on me, and I don't know. I decided I was going to get good with Zelda, and then when things kind of changed for her, I was like, well, I don't know. I have less of a drive now to want to like stick with this quirky character.
Yeah, I probably already kind of have spoiled that. I apologize, but yeah, but that that makes her. I actually really like her then. um, but yeah, I guess I think that's everybody that's sort of early on, so I don't want to say too much more.
Well, asterisk, but
Yeah, right. Um, yeah, it's complicated. We'll get there.
yeah.
And without making half the episode a spoiler, I guess with Link, is there anything like to mention there that you think is? I know he's got the swords, but he uses a couple different weapons that are
He's got
pretty
a lot of depth.
interesting. But
He's
I've
got a lot of
never,
versatility. They reflected that like Breath of the Wild, how he could have different weapons. Like you could actually
yeah,
pick out different weapons for him, like the two-handed, the spears. It was actually really really cool to have that option. Even though like I think most people probably just stuck with the sword, the one hit, and the shield and everything. Plus, being able to use that bow is super useful.
it can be. Yeah,
Mhm.
Very true. It's kind of like that original appeal that we always got when they first ever showed off Breath of the Wild with that first teaser when he jumped off the horse with the
Oh
bow.
yes,
Yeah.
that
Really
was
kind of,
sweet.
I feel
That
like
was
it kind of
sweet.
like was like a throwback to that.
hmm
Yeah.
Definitely feel that.
That was cool, man. Back then, before we even knew what the Switch was,
I
that
think
was Wii U times.
the most underutilized feature of the game, other than like using the shield to parry attacks, was using the paraglider. I didn't use that hardly at all. In fact, I'd get upset if I accidentally used it.
Yeah, it was kind of
Oh my
annoying.
gosh, yes. Yes. I hated that. I hate when you are just about any character, but I'll use Mifa, for example.
Mhm.
Or not Mifa, Impa. You're start to chain up combos, and before you know it, you're up in the air. And the weak point gauge is displayed like, all right, I want to get down on the ground. I want to get down on the ground. I want to attack. I want to attack.
Yeah.
Get out of the air. I hated that.
I had
It
that with
happened to
Link
me
all the
more often than
time.
not.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember from the first, for those of you that have played the first Hyrule Warriors, uh, there being a specific button in order to jump or whatever. But it felt like with Age of Calamity, I was always accidentally doing that, or like we were talking about. Hated that.
I don't know if any jump button in Age of
Maybe
Calamity at
I might
all.
be thinking of a different game, but
No, that might be true for Hyrule Warriors, the first one. But this one, I don't think there's any way to jump other than using attacks that'll put you into the air.
yes, yes.
So that was kind of a weird thing to work around.
Mhm.
Basically, the game became all about patterns, and button presses and how you did it in certain orders. But you had to sometimes interrupt the flow of combat to stop so that you drop down so that you could actually like break a meter or something. And it was kind of jarring. There was no quick way to drop down to the ground uh, in the heat of the battle or anything.
I think if you do like a wall jump, it kicks you into that animation
Yeah.
sometimes.
I wall jumped all the time because of some other mechanics that are in the game that are not the greatest.
Yeah, it's. I guess maybe we could have mentioned that some near the beginning, but especially for those who aren't familiar with either one of those Warriors games, is I guess they sort of get a reputation of being just sort of mindless, running out in the field and just murdering a bunch of guys, like being super overpowered. But I really don't feel like that's the case.
Mhm.
especially with this one, even more so than the first one. There's a lot of patterns to learn, bosses to, you'll be fighting the same bosses a lot, but it's really learning like what their next move is going to be. Watching for cues and things like that.
And they'll do the same moves generally, but sometimes they have some added effects or they move just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like at some point, there's a Lionel that you'll fight that actually kind of hovers in the air for a second, then slams down. And there's some variations that make it a little bit more like varied and challenging, and kept it interesting for sure.
This one also has all the different elements as well, like lightning and ice and things like
Those are
that that you
cool.
can use. And you have to take that into consideration. They might have different actions on characters
Cool,
too.
but it
Yeah,
does remind me of a common complaint that people had with Breath of the Wild was,
I
oh
thought
my
you were making
gosh,
a joke. I'm sorry.
where's the variety of? No, I wasn't. Where's the
Yeah.
variety of enemies in
Where's my
Breath of the
Skulltulas?
Wild? There's just exactly.
Right.
So in the same way, how many different types of Lionels and Moblins am I going to fight? I enjoyed it. Very fun, very cool.
True.
But I see how people could complain about that.
Mhm.
I think that's sort of my point too. And we were comparing the original and this one is, I feel like the first one had a lot more variety in some ways, at least with characters. Like you would have, this is more the DLC, but you would have like Marin from Link's Awakening, which I thought was awesome. But then you'd have Tingle with his balloons, and you'd have, I can't even think, the Gorons and everything else in there. It felt like there's a little bit more to that, but also the story in different universes where this is just Breath of the Wild, really.
Was Soraya a playable character or one of the Kokiri?
I don't
no,
think
she wasn't.
No,
That's a missed opportunity. Okay.
it was.
Yeah, I could have seen them maybe trying to pull that off, but no, she didn't make it in there. But yeah, I just it does make me wonder like what's to come for this if they do DLC. I personally hope they do because I thought some of the first game's DLC was really cool.
I would love if they had DLC.
But and the first one again, they had different adventure maps. They had like the one that looked like the original Zelda, and then like when there was a Twilight Princess map, and it was all sort of focused around that. There was a Wind Waker map, where this is again just Breath of the Wild, and like everything is on that map. The story missions, the side missions, all of it's on there. So
mind-boggling.
I don't know exactly how they would do that. Like I said, some of it's good, where like it's all really focused, and part of me likes that almost more. It's all focused on Breath of the Wild, that world. It's that's cool.
It's a bit busy once you get later in the game, but
for sure. But it also comes with the disadvantage of where like the first one they could have, the king that was the boat. I can't think of his name, King Rome or whatever his name is from Wind Waker. You could play as him, but then you could also play as
King
Midna.
of Red Lions.
Yeah, you could also play as Midna from Twilight Princess, where in this you can't really, you don't have all those crossovers and stuff. So it's got its pluses and minuses.
Was it True Midna or was it?
Both actually.
Ooh,
yeah.
I might want to play that just
oh yeah,
True Midna.
Well, the first one really was kind of an amalgamate. I can't say the word.
Amalgamation.
A celebration. Thank you. Of all Zelda games, really. I kind of like that. Beautiful in a sense. I do like Age of Calamity for how it does follow the Breath of the Wild story.
Yeah, I will say, I know we're probably getting close to where we might be talking about some spoilers.
Into the story.
Yeah, before we do get officially started there, because I know we might lose a couple of people at least until the next timestamp or so. I do really recommend this if you're a fan of, especially if you're a fan of the first game, the first Hyrule Warriors. But if you're a fan of Zelda and Breath of the Wild in general, you want to see more of that lore. It doesn't. Let's say it doesn't take things into too big of a new place, so to speak. Like if you get the sequel to Breath of the Wild, this may or may not really affect the story much. Again, we'll get there in a minute. But
Hyrule Story, I just look at your book there and you'll know.
That's right.
But yeah, if you like that world, you want to see more of it. I think this is sort of a no-brainer. I think it's really solid and just a fun, maybe change of pace for you to get into. But outside of that, we probably should go ahead and step things up a little bit with the story and the characters and things like that. So if you all are cool with it, we might want to go ahead and call the spoiler warning right here. So we are going basically all out. We'll probably start near the beginning of this, but just all the way through the end of this story at this point, at least for a little while, so we can talk about more of the characters and the story and things like that, and how all of that might connect. So I will go ahead and let one of you guys start. What did you all think of the story?
Zach?
I've got a confession to make. The little side quests and everything that you do, like to level up your characters and unlock things, I didn't really read them. I didn't read the flavor text there. I just kind of
didn't either.
Just
skipped through them, and I feel like I missed some big parts about the story, or at least some important character development stuff. Like I could have gotten a full feeling of this being a world and a battle that took place in a time frame, but I just kind of skipped over that stuff because I was in a hurry, and I kind of wish I would have read that stuff just to gain give more personality to the characters, but I didn't.
What do you mean? You mean like do you mean side missions, or do you mean the in between stories of the main
quests, the side mission stuff where you
that
like,
you help this
person and they're happy about this, and
you don't. I agree with Jacob. You don't really miss anything.
Right.
It's more of a this is kind of what happened, maybe in between some of the big things, but you're good with I think just the main reading the main stuff.
Yeah, and if you go off that, I mean, it's not even canon. It's not going to make sense with the main story. You didn't miss anything.
Well, we'll see if it's canon or not.
Spoiler, since we already threw out the spoiler warning, it's an alternate timeline anyhow.
I do think they actually said it was canon, except that
is,
part.
but it's
canon
not.
in the Zelda universe. But
what does that mean?
Where they said the original one was not. So
right. So it's canon with Breath of the Wild.
is not either. So if that tells you anything,
that doesn't count. that doesn't exist. No.
So
go ahead.
I just want to comment. Basically, this is what Age of Calamity did story-wise, music-wise, the way Ganon is in the end. It did everything that I wanted Breath of the Wild to do. Like this game took the elements that I thought sucked in Breath of the Wild and amped them up, which ultimately makes me sad that this isn't a traditional Zelda game. Because if this was a traditional Zelda game, this would be my favorite Zelda game. Like the way they handled it. I mean, I think the gameplay style of the game is fun, but I feel like you really are missing the true depths of like full-on Zelda based on the unique gameplay that Zelda traditionally brings. I just wish we could mesh those games together, which who knows, maybe Breath of the Wild 2 does that, who knows, but that's kind of my overall thoughts as we get going in here.
Zach, were you thinking something?
Well, I feel like to do this story of the battle that took place 100 years ago, you almost have to have it be like a Dynasty Warriors style game. I mean, I would imagine there were thousands upon thousands of enemies out on the battlefield. That actually reminds me of one of the memories from Breath of the Wild, in which it starts, there's a bunch of slain enemies on the ground, and Link just, he like took them all out. So I kind of feel like this style of gameplay really lends itself to the story, but at the same time, I see what you're saying, Jacob. I agree with you.
As for me, I like how they handled it a whole lot. I know some people aren't huge fans of how it sort of did essentially split the timeline again in its own way. I don't think that's going to matter a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, to be honest. I think that's probably the last we'll see of that split unless they add more to this game. But I like how it was handled. I like seeing at least some of the beginning of the game that would, essentially lead into Breath of the Wild. I like seeing just little pieces of how they got there. Not a whole lot, I guess, super important that we didn't know happened there. But, seeing like the young Impa and everybody and the kingdom, like the way it originally was really cool. Being able to somewhat run around the castle marketplace, so to speak, before it was burned down. So that was really cool.
I could see the reverse happening though, with the story. Whereas going forward into Breath of the Wild 2, maybe using that one character to bring the others into that realm would be kind of cool. For story, like plot twists and stuff like that, that would be neat. Not necessarily like play them like you do Hyrule Warriors style, but just to have that integrated into the story, like show like, hey, other timelines are now dipping into this timeline, that you're experiencing or something like that.
Well, there's that one
convergence.
Well, that was a thought. That was a theory, I think, a convergence theory. Because there's that. I know I'm going back to Breath of the Wild. This is Age of Calamity we're talking about. But there's another memory there where it's like a coronation ceremony where Zelda's like knighting Link, and the video or the footage cuts to the champions talking amongst themselves, and in the background you can hear Zelda talking, and she says a few things that is like a callback, I think, like to Twilight Princess and that sort of thing. So it almost seems like maybe some of them did converge or whatever at some point. Just a thought.
But with the split here, I guess just to kind of go into it, so I don't know, for those who don't care or what have you, basically partway through the story, that character that we're all talking about, the little guardian that you've probably seen, or hopefully if you've already beat the game, you know who I'm talking about.
Can we just say the name?
Terraco. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm treating it like the whole Baby
this
Yoda.
This is a Grogu situation, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I might have just spoiled Mandalorian. I'm sorry. Anyway,
that was me.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Anyhow, yeah, he splits. Basically, we find out that at the beginning, it shows the castle being attacked by Calamity Ganon and his forces and all of that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But he falls, and essentially we find out he goes back in time and ends up like, I don't know exactly how long before, but before the castle was attacked.
Right.
And essentially some things change about halfway through the story. The champions, I guess, are they really considered champions? Of the future, as funny as that sounds to say, show up and save the original champions and all of that sort of thing.
Plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
of
course. What is it?
Like how does he change them or save them? What does he do?
He sends back
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say he sends back their successors, so to speak, from Breath of the Wild to stop the blights from killing them.
Yeah.
So it's actually a pretty cool moment.
That's where I think a lot of people were ticked off. They were not happy that they did that. They wanted to see the originality play out of how people died,
Yes, that was an expectation.
However, I don't think it matters because you saw how they died. You did.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
They showed it. You thought, because I remember thinking like, this is it, man. This is how they say goodbye. And then they trick you and like, boom, they get saved. If in the original timeline, that was how it happened. They really died that way.
It very much felt like a Marvel, like Avengers feeling. Like,
yeah.
And the pacing was like that too, with all the battles and stuff going on. But
right, yeah.
Pulling these characters you didn't expect to see, it's really kind of cool that they had that epic feel. And I don't know. At first I was like, oh, so they're going with that. That wasn't the part that bothered me. I was actually okay with that, and I was like, cool. As long as they do this at the end, and they didn't do this at the end.
What's this?
And we'll probably talk about it at the end, like with the final like battle and everything. How I expected them to wrap things up, they didn't do it in that way. It left it on a hanging note, and I feel like they could have wrapped it up a little better. I don't know. I just feel like they could have explained it a little bit more, done something a little bit differently, but they didn't go that route. So
yeah.
Yeah, I was legitimately surprised. Like I remember actually getting excited when that happened, because I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that was so cool.
And the cutscenes. It took what the memories in Breath of the Wild did not do, and just boom, dialed it up to 9. There were several of them that stood out like a sore thumb. Like, oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see that in the next Zelda. I wish they would do that. It always frustrates me more seeing that, because I'm like, why don't they just do this? They can do it. Like,
since I brought that up, one of my favorite cutscenes was when they're at Fort Hateno, and it happened the same way. Her her powers awakened, same place, same way, under the same circumstances. Man, when Link was taking on all of the blights, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
So awesome.
I mean, again, you go back to like that's the kind of crap I wanted in Breath of the Wild. That was when they brought back like round 2 with all the blights and it's Link versus them all. Like that was not expected. That was so cool. I was like, dude, man, if this is what I want from the main line. This story it's 10 times better than Breath of the Wild's main story, and I'll stand by that. Really cool. I love it. I'm glad you brought that scene up. That's one of the best.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Breath of the Wild, I think the cutscenes almost alone are worth it. You know,
I think
it's
they're like
not
2 hours long. Like someone like put them together, a compilation, and they are long. It's like it's a legit movie. It's awesome.
I even thought some of the voice acting was a little bit better. I think it's all the
is.
same returning voice actors outside of the ones that might be like new characters or something. Well, not new, but you know what I mean. But I think especially I hate to always call her out because I feel like a lot of people do, and she seems like a nice person. But especially Zelda's voice actor.
Patricia Somerset.
Yeah, I know. I won't say who. I know at least one person that kind of makes fun of it, and I just don't really like. I'm not a huge fan of how it's done in some ways. Like she sounds very kind of whiny. I don't know if that's really the word for it. Like I guess she's trying to be kind of proper sounding, but like the Blood Moon cutscenes in the original game, like she just sounds very weak. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. But then in this game, like when she got to the point where, you know, her power was unleashed or whatever, where it awoken, like she turned into a different person almost. And I thought she did a great job. Like I was like, I hope they stick with this Zelda, like with the sequel especially, which they might, since you know her powers awaken in that as well.
We got to see a very scared, like I'm powerless. I wish I could do something. Character in Breath of the Wild, but we never got to see the, you know, hey, I have the power now and I can lead in a strong female role. We didn't get to see very much of that at all. So it was really great to see her shine in this game for sure.
Breath of the Wild's really done something I think different than any other Zelda game has. Zelda has she's there with you. She's active. She's even in Breath of the Wild, the original game, like she's guiding you along. And before that, outside of Wind Waker, spoilers, you know, Tetra's a pirate girl who turns out to be Zelda. Spoilers. But like I feel like, you know, like in Twilight Princess, for example, she's always just locked away. You know, she's not there. Ocarina of Time, she's there, and then she's just locked away. You know, it's like, and yes, in Breath of the Wild, she was locked away, but she was communicating to you, and she plays an active role, a bigger role, I feel like, in the very end part of the game. And then in this game, I think they did a good job, guys. We're not looking the past Zeldas outside of Wind Waker, I'd say were pretty much all adult formed. At least Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time. I'd say Skyward Sword was young adult. This one, I kind of feel like she's a teenager.
She's 17, isn't she?
Yeah, I think that's the exact age.
So, I mean, I think the voice acting is spot on, personally. I think it's really showing what a teenager would be going through. And she's trying to find confidence within herself, and she's being asked to take and lead on a kingdom and do something that you're only used to seeing adults do, you know. And I think it's really, I think they did a good job, personally. I don't
the weight of the world on her shoulders, man. She's fighting to unseal her powers. She's doing all this research with you know, the Guardians and stuff. She's got her father coming down on her. Hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, she's 17. She's a high schooler.
Exactly.
I mean, could you imagine if your dad was the president of the United States and all of a sudden you need to go lead the America's army?
Yeah.
As a 17-year-old, that's essentially what happens.
Yeah, I do hope. Like I do think most of the voice acting is pretty good. There's a few that, you know, could maybe do a little bit better, but some that just a little bit more irritating than others. But I do really want the Zelda series to stick with it. I kind of feel like where I kind of feel like before Breath of the Wild, especially, they could have done it, but it's like almost for tradition's sake they didn't, which was just kind of annoying. It was like they refused to let that evolve. But I think it can really work.
I think it could too.
Yeah, I think Age of Calamity proves that.
On that subject, though, of people talking and voice acting, are you guys for or against ever having Link have a voice actor?
Never have a voice actor.
I agree.
I like it. Like him silent.
I don't know. I think I'm wanting to say keep him silent, but then there are times where it's a little awkward, where like he's in a room full of people. Like I think even in this game, and it's like he's still trying to play like the hero role, but you're getting attached to all these other characters that are talking, and he's just kind of there.
Well, there's a reason he doesn't talk. I think there's an entry in Zelda's diary you read in Breath of the Wild, and she asks him, why don't you speak much? And he basically says, he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders too. Everyone's looking to him because he's the hero, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn. I know if he would start talking, like it would make a bunch of people throw a fit.
It'd be weird.
So I don't I don't know. If he ever does, I want it to be very little, and just very almost like the Mandalorian is at the beginning of the show. I'm sorry, I'm making comparisons.
I would say, yeah. And not very many spoken lines, I would imagine. Right. Powerful enough at the right times, it could be good, but not a lot of story with that. Like I wouldn't see like just big, huge spoken lines, And we got to see some of that dipped into that with like Metroid and having handled wrong for Other M.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people like complained about Zelda, and Breath of the Wild was the emotion behind it, making her sound weak. Like just maybe some people found the voice actor a little bit grating. I personally loved it, but that's something that like what if they did that to Link? It would fall like it would be more souring than anything else because it did so much damage to Metroid. So I think having a main character speak like that may be best to stay away from it or just use very, very little.
I agree.
I could see that. I do hope again that some of this sort of carries over. We see aspects from Age of Calamity in Breath of the Wild too. The way the cutscenes were handled and the voice acting and such being part of that. But yeah, I mean, with the kind of to backtrack a little bit with back to Age of Calamity completely. I actually again was pretty cool with how it split, and I felt like it was okay since this is sort of a side game, but it still felt mostly Zelda, even with like the time travel and stuff in there being a little bit far fetched. I still think it mostly worked overall, and I really enjoyed it. Again, even with the twist, it almost felt good that I didn't know what was going to happen next, because before that it was like, well, I know what's coming.
Right.
Then I was like, oh, I don't know. Like that was really cool.
Any cutscenes that really kind of surprised you guys?
What was that?
Any cutscenes that really surprised you guys?
Yes, if I may go. Yeah, I'm excited. One of the cutscenes that really surprised me was, I forget where you're at in the story, but you discover that a certain character is not dead. The king. Well, we've already thrown out the spoiler one. Yeah, the king. The king is alive. Yeah. I did not see it coming. I'm like, oh no, really? no, he's gone. I didn't. Maybe I just wasn't looking for it, but I didn't see it coming. I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. Yeah, and there he was. That was cool.
And he was an awesome character too. Like
terrifying.
Yeah, you can split between the axe though, like the old man look.
Yeah.
And then his big whatever the big sword thing is. Actually, he's one of my favorite later games characters to play as. There's not a big reason to use him much, but I do just have fun using him.
Mm-hmm. Like just seeing like someone in a cloak running at you with a giant axe. It's
yeah.
Just because he holds it over his head like that.
He looks like Santa Claus coming at you with an axe.
I do not like how. Let's see, what's one of the powers with the Sheikah Slate? Is it stasis? I don't like how stasis works with him. It just feels weird to me. But.
Oh, that reminded me. Yeah, with all the different characters, how they use all those different. I'm gonna say some of their names wrong. I believe it's Tiba, the
no,
Dorito that comes back. Now, I will say with him, when I first started playing, when he popped up, he's actually one of my favorites, and like I played with him consistently there. If you can main a character, I usually switch out a lot. I'm not very good at sticking one.
No, I do not like Eba. I don't.
I actually really like using him, except I don't like how he uses some of his runes.
I felt like he just didn't do a lot of damage for flying around as much as he did.
I don't like the way he feels, or controls. It's just so off-putting for me.
Well, and he gets a little crazy with his combos, but once you figure out how to use them properly, it's actually kind of cool. But his like the way he would use, I think it's all of them, maybe stasis and bombs. It almost like zooms in, and you have to aim it at the bad guy, and that I'd always forget that, and I'd end up like shooting at the ground or something because I wasn't ready for it in a hurry. So that was kind of annoying. Another one that's pretty, I guess, okay to play with, but does something like that with the bombs is oh shoot, what's his name? The Zora. Wow, I went blank.
It's Sidon.
Sidon is when you use the bombs with him, he basically like tosses them up like he's hitting a baseball. And you have to time it right. And I thought that in the middle of those fights, I don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I didn't really like him. I thought he played awful. I didn't know.
Mipha was better than he was.
Way better.
Yeah. He was very okay. And I think part of it's really so big.
I love playing as Sidon.
He's got that charm. He's got that smile. He's not he's not that good player to me.
Where Mipha is like the flowing of water and fluidity. Like he is like the crashing, roaring ocean. Like using his attacks, like if you hit your shoulder button at just the right time to give it that extra oomph and pull off other combos off of that, like it's really powerful. Just like crashing waves. I love that theme for him.
My coordination must just be off because I cannot do it.
It's all about time button presses for him, and he's big and kind of runs a little slower.
Yeah.
But he packs a punch, and I just love the different things you can do with that.
We brought up those two. So Daruk and Yunobu. I personally liked Yunobu better than Daruk. A little bit by hair, but I did.
With Yunobu, I feel like I didn't understand. I'm even just dumb, but I didn't understand where the different shields would come in. Like,
special, but
I get the shield, but I don't know why certain ones are better at certain places. Maybe I haven't used them enough, and I like them. I want to like him, but like I feel like certain shields, I swear I'd get hurt more with some things coming at me. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but he was fun to use. He can be a little bit whiny as a character, but a little bit too much of a chicken. It's kind of like when they give a character characteristics and they just they're one note, sort of like Rivali can be. It's like, oh yeah, that's fine, but then they don't do anything else. It gets a little bit irritating. But outside of him as a character, yeah, he's pretty fun to use. I think. I mean, a little bit. If I understood him a little bit better, that would help.
And then Urbosa's sidekick.
Yeah,
Rishu.
Thank
Rishu.
you. I got a good laugh out of that one when they popped up and like they say their name. When a new character pops in on the screen, even like Zelda or whoever, when they first pop up in the story, it tells you their name at the bottom of the screen and all that, like a nice little introduction. With her, it said her name, and then it said I can't think of her the animal that's with her's name, but she like got her own Patricia. For some reason, we got a good laugh out of her getting her own like splash screen.
Yeah, that was
Now I don't know what you think. She's probably my least favorite of those four to use.
I kind of like her
just because
I thought it was pretty cool.
She just gets so crazy. Like I don't know. She just goes all over the place, and I don't feel like I have much focus with her. Like I don't know what she's gonna do next. Like
I know what you say. I know what you're saying, but I thought I enjoyed her, and I thought she was powerful, and I thought when she got the hang of her, she was really fun. Especially when you could just like release lightning on everybody with her. I thought she moved. She moves around so fast, and I like that. I hate. That's what I didn't like about Daruk. I felt like Daruk was just so freaking slow moving around. But she moved really fast, and I like that.
I think she's one of those that would be good, like on the stages that you're against like 900 bad guys.
Yes.
I think she'd be perfect for that. I don't like her as much against bosses, I think is what it is.
Well, I know we kind of jumped off this, but Zach already said it. Were there any other cutscenes for you guys? Like Ryan, is there a cutscene that kind of just surprised you? You did not expect that. Like, what's your favorite? Everything that happened.
Definitely the moment where my first one was Mifa's, and so
okay.
Having I just the moment that Prince Sidon like kind of popped in there was really cool for me. I was like, awesome, they're doing that. That's really cool. Other cutscenes, there's just so many so many emotional scenes. I think that it felt really kind of confirming to see why Zelda was so angry at her father for taking away Teriko. That was really cool to see that. I kind of connected that with Breath of the Wild and how she's so angry at him for taking away her tech research when it was a little bit more. It was more personal than just like, oh, I like my science things. Like it was, you took away my best friend. That was really cool to see that. And then anything else like kind of really expanded the story, or of just Breath of the Wild itself, that kind of supplemented that. It may not be canon, it may not have happened in that timeline, but it does help to tell the story.
It happened.
You get a scope for how tough the battles were. Yes, Calamity Ganon started his assault earlier in this version, due to the aid of the Harbinger, which was actually the Teriko from that timeline.
Yeah, which was cool.
That he took control of now that he knew that Teriko existed from the future. Right. So it was kind of cool. Like that was that kind of like yin and yang thing.
Yeah. Josh, did you have a scene?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of two different things here. Zelda's Lullaby, hearing it come out of Teriko a few times, I thought was really cool. It had a nice kind of touching moment for the story in a couple ways, and it tied it back to Zelda's mother and why Teriko is so important to her and all of that. I thought that was really nice, but it also, to me, Breath of the Wild sort of feels like its own thing, like away from the rest of the Zelda series almost. And I feel like it had a way of tying everything back into that as well. So I almost didn't expect to hear it. But like, I don't think so much of Ocarina of Time when I see Breath of the Wild as much as I do when I see Twilight Princess, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I just feel like it sort of tied it all back into the series, but it also just felt really kind of sweet in the story. But also one of the cutscenes, and I'm trying to think of all of them. It's been about a month since I beat it, but one of them I really liked was when all of the armies of Hyrule were coming together near the end, and it just showed all of them lined up, and their leaders with them. And one thing we hadn't talked about, I'm sorry, I know we're running a little low on time, I think at this point, but the Divine Beast, and they were there and all of that. I thought that was super cool.
Oh yeah.
If actually we have a moment there, what did you all think of controlling the Divine Beast? Was there any of them that you especially liked, or just didn't get the feel of?
Not really. I didn't like it. Breath of the Wild to me really made those beasts seem indestructible, pretty much. And in this game, they really just showed like they're really like beatable pretty easily if the enemies attack it enough. And I didn't like that. It kind of brought them down to earth a little bit for me, whereas in the original story, it had to be Calamity again and taking them over internally to get control over them. And I didn't like how, like the whole game, it's like, oh, we got to get them together so they can send off this massive blast. It's going to just hurt Ganon so bad. And like in this game, they're just sending off those blasts all the time, left and right.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it just kind of diminished the importance of those beasts, in my opinion.
I see your point, but at the same time, I had fun with it, man. Probably one of my favorite Divine Beast Control was, and I'm probably going to get their names mixed up. Is it Varuda? I think that's Rivali's Divine Beast, if I'm not mistaken.
Meadow.
That was, yes. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. That was probably my favorite one to control, personally.
If you think about it, like Guardians can shoot off laser beams all the time. I don't see why that the Divine Beast couldn't do that. They're the same tech, pretty much. I mean, yeah, they seem a little bigger, but a little. But I can see that though. Like it's like kind of the big attack, to take out Ganon. Why are they using it all the time? I can definitely see that point as well. It was cool to be able to have that power, and I didn't really feel like they were being destroyed. Like if you failed, you just ran out of time. You didn't do the thing that you were trying to do in time. It ran out of power for that time, so they were too late to save the thing. I never really felt like it was like they were being destroyed because it was just weak. I just felt like it was temporarily halted, and it was a pivotal point in the battle where it could have made a difference for Ganon winning or losing. So that's kind of how I felt on that one.
Yeah, I think my favorite one I honestly don't remember the name. It's the camel.
Boris.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite one. Once I learned it, at first I didn't realize the right stick moved where you were aiming the lightning. And I was like, man, this thing has short range. Like I was like, it's cool, but you can only get like right in front of you. Once I figured that out, like I fell in love with it. It was really cool.
Best.
It's so much fun to charge in.
Yep.
And then just drop the lightning all around. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, and like the special move with it too. You just feel like a beast. Like you just cause this huge storm in front of you. I loved it.
Definitely.
That was probably my favorite. I thought overall it was a cool addition. There was nothing like that in the first Hyrule Warriors.
Right.
No.
And
well, no, the other kind of was. There was a mode where you were like all the monsters, like you were like plowing down, like you could be Ganon, Beast Ganon. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
So kind of similar.
Barely use that mode,
but different.
I almost completely forgot about that. That was like an extra thing that I think they added later or something that I don't feel like they did much with.
No,
that's true. But I thought that was a super cool addition, and I feel like they mostly did it well. It was fun, and they didn't overdo it either.
I think if they did a villain's storyline for DLC, I could see that happening.
Probably.
I know Hyrule Warriors is known for having, or the Warriors formula has been known to have villains playable, and so like maybe playing as the Blight Ganon's would be kind of weird, but definitely playing as what's his name, Aster, would be pretty cool. And then of course the Harbinger, Terrico, and stuff like that. That would be kind of cool to see that side of the story and figure out what all Aster was doing behind the scenes. One character switches from bad to good. Well, because they're
some of the Yiga clan.
But seeing things like that, it would be really cool. I would like to see more of the story to see where Aster plays in. I believe he was the fortune teller that foretold Calamity Ganon coming from Breath of the Wild. They gave him a face and a name, but he was corrupted by Ganon earlier. If not, I don't know if he was still corrupted by Ganon or if he was just a normal person.
If I may bring up a point, now I've only heard one source talk about this. Zeltic, one of my favorite Zelda YouTubers, he brought up in his story explain video of Age of Calamity, when Terrico goes back in time, there's a little bit of Ganon's malice that follows him. So it's almost like there's two Ganons at the same time, and it just by the time the Calamity does happen, towards the end of Age of Calamity, it's like it's just dialed to 11 or something like that.
Interesting.
I can definitely realize. I never felt like the Ganon from Age of Calamity originally in that timeline really surfaced. I felt like that was the other one drawing power from the original Ganon from that timeline. I never felt like that was the old
That's
Ganon.
Kind of how I feel too. Yeah.
I felt like that was really the Ganon that was getting revenge from the future that was hopping back. That's kind of where I felt like that was the one that was pulling the strings, and it drew on the Ganon's power that already existed there in the timeline.
Yeah.
That final battle.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I felt with that, and like he was still lying in wait. I was like, "Where's the other Ganon? Like, why is that not happening?"
Never thought about that.
That's kind of how I felt with the whole final battle. I was like, well, this isn't the real ending. Like there's more to this than that. So
I never thought of that. I didn't realize that. Honestly, I kind of felt like I didn't draw that together, that there would be two calamities in the one timeline. I didn't think about that. I what was totally? Oh, I need to say my favorite cutscenes. I never said that. Once that shocked me. You bring up that you brought up the prophecy guy. That scene where he's like pulling souls out of the Yiga clans.
Oh gosh.
I thought that was actually pretty dark for Zelda. Like, I mean, he literally was like sucking their souls out and their dead bodies rolling over the ground. That surprised me. Don't feel like we've ever seen that in a Zelda game. So that was surprising, and it just showed how dark that dude was. And then I mean, Josh kind of already said it, but we've never seen Princess Zelda's mother ever.
No.
And I thought for the split second, man, they were about to show it, and I kind of jumped up out of my seat a little bit. Like, she turns around and she's talking to her mom, and she turns around so fast, but then it like blurs out. It's like, oh man. And to me, that was really cool. That was kind of a touching moment of the heart, because the eldest mom is never around. And it was, I don't know, it got a little emotional there, honestly.
Yeah.
And that her mother dies. I don't remember in Breath of the Wild if they talk about her mother's death much, but that was really
give why.
Yeah, that was really touching.
They said she got sick, but I don't remember if that was even mentioned.
Yeah, and I wonder if Princess Zelda's mom's name is Zelda too. Is that possible? So, isn't it like all the females in that line are Zelda?
Wait, I think that is a tradition. If I'm thinking of lore from some of the different games, that the princesses are always named Zelda.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And then the robot Terraco, is that his name? Terraco?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plays the Song of Time to bring in the heroes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Which was very great drawback to Ocarina of Time. And then he played Zelda's Lullaby. There's something about Zelda's Lullaby that is just so soothing of the heart. It really pulls out the heartstrings. It's really beautiful. And again, it goes back to my point of my top criticism of Breath of the Wild 1. It's a missing soundtrack. There's good sound pieces in it, but that soundtrack is not a masterpiece. It lacked what Zelda always brought, and that was heartstringing music. And this game was filled with it. And every time they hinted back to Zelda's Lullaby, I was like, yes, that's what you were missing. Even the intro, when it has that eerie music.
Oh yeah.
It's like isn't it like it's the menu screen of all traditional Zelda games. They're playing that, but it's like kind of eerie, I think.
Yeah.
The Fairy Fountain.
I think you're right.
But it's kind of dark, and I just thought that this game really hit well on the music notes. No pun intended. That was really, really cool. And that's what Breath of the Wild 1 was missing. And hopefully Breath of the Wild 2 has a way better soundtrack. I'll stand by that through and through.
I think with Breath of the Wild, I think it did a lot of that right. And I feel like we've kind of downed it in some ways. Like I have the cutscenes and things. I still think Breath of the Wild is it is an awesome game.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of ways a masterpiece. But like with the music, I think the way they handled a lot of it was cool, like with the overworld and things. But I do feel like they could have added some other musical aspect to that Zelda usually has, like a musical instrument or something that prompted that to happen a little more often. Not just callbacks for the sake of callbacks, but actually like a good purpose for it. But yeah, I do hope something like that shows up again into. Gives it a little bit more life, makes it feel a little bit more Zelda, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I know we're kind of cutting short on time here, but one of the other things I wanted to mention, with the way this sort of wraps up, with the ending and the twist and all of that sort of thing, do you think this will have any sort of effect on the sequel for Breath of the Wild, or do you think this is sort of a one and done, sort of went off in its own way? That sort of thing.
I think, as far as having like an Age of Calamity sequel, I don't think we really need one. I think personally, I feel like this was a one and done thing. It served its purpose. But as far as Breath of the Wild 2, one aspect that I think could be affected because of Age of Calamity would be the champion successors. They went back in time, or back to the original timeline, I would assume. So it kind of makes you think, how do they go back and talk to Link and Zelda about what happened? Like, that's an interesting aspect.
I always wondered where they were at when they came. Like, how did they? Were they ready? Were they warned? Like, hey, you need to have your bow drawn before you get sucked into here. Or was like, what if Tibu was pooping or something and he just gets sucked into a different timeline? I was like, what the heck? Like, what happened there?
Right.
Anyway,
I wonder what they'll do with that. Like, I could look at it a bunch of different ways, and I don't know if Nintendo would necessarily pull that in. As much as I'd like to see something like that, you could even argue that that Ganon, that piece of Ganon that went through when Terraco first time jumped, like that piece of Ganon was Ganon's insurance policy, so that even if he did give up his reincarnation in that timeline, like his reincarnation of himself will be in that alternate timeline, and that could be pulled into this Zelda 2 later or something, where he comes back because he has another piece of his incarnation there or something. Who knows? But they did drive that point at the end of Breath of the Wild with the whole he's giving up his incarnation to end this, be the one end all be all. And yet we see Breath of the Wild 2, showing like there's still Ganondorf, Husk at least, hanging out down below the castle or catacombs or whatever. I really liked that theming. Now, as far as what they're going to be doing with this whole like Terraco time travel split timeline thing, I really don't know. It's going to be a Breath of the Wild 2, not a Majora's Mask scenario. It's actually going to be a sequel, not just like a weird like offshoot, is what it's seeming like. So it'll definitely have story beads and stuff to kind of tie everything together. But I think that they did a really good job with this Age of Calamity story. Like, that was a great story for any game, let alone a Zelda game. And yeah, it wasn't a Zelda game, but it definitely was a story that we wanted and craved for Breath of the Wild. That we felt like it felt a little flat. And I think they definitely made up for it with this game. It is a shame that they couldn't have it all in one package.
Mm-hmm. I think really what we've come to conclude is, from what we've talked about, I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to take place after Age of Calamity. I think it's going to be on this alternate timeline. And especially for you guys confirming it, that the traditional Calamity of that timeline didn't even show. And it was like, wow, well, that kind of just makes sense to me. If the original planned, if that Calamity had knowledge of another Calamity coming from a different timeline, it would maybe change its course a little bit, change its plan, instead of being this all-out pig beast, to find its Gerudo mummified body and start bringing life back into it. And I think that they very well could. I mean, heck, why maybe Nintendo reached out to this company to make this story happen, to fill in the gaps of how they were going to go about Breath of the Wild 2. Because you're right, like that was the big question. Like, well, Ganon, she said at the end of the game he can never come back, but then now Breath of the Wild 2 is happening and Ganondorf's there, so that doesn't make sense. This is a way around that, and I'm going to put my money on it now that it follows this timeline and not the Breath of the Wild 1 timeline that we've already played.
That's a big gamble, but I mean, what you just said, that could kind of make sense, I guess. I never thought of it that way.
We'll see. I need a comment real quick on the final boss fight. Again, you talk about things doing right. It justified it made what I wanted to happen in the original one. What I hated about that final boss fight, it looked nothing like Ganon. It looked nothing like Ganondorf. Had no resemblance of the character that we had built up in our mind. It looked like this deformed, weird monster. And in this one, he took on a human form, and it looked like I was fighting an enraged giant Ganondorf, honestly.
Yes.
And I loved that because he took on a humanoid form by killing the dude. He took on the.
Oh, that was epic. That was weird and epic. It was crazy.
Oh, he took out Aster like it was an Indiana Jones villain death or something.
You ain't gonna tell me what to do.
Oh yeah, he was just like, "Who do you think you are?" type thing, And I loved that. That was really, really cool. It kind of just justified my feelings about the first game and the final fight there. I just had to make a comment about that.
That's an interesting parallel, though. Aster had the eye on his forehead, and that is the eye that was on the Ganondorf or that character in Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. So maybe that was what took over Aster, was something to do with that eye. Or it's definitely a mark of Ganon of some sort. It's kind of a cool element there.
It is interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I do wonder if we'll see. I was sort of set on, they're probably not going to tie anything from this into 2, but it does make me wonder if they sort of added something in here to help you better understand it in 2, like if Aster somehow comes back or something like that you're like, oh, okay, that, you don't necessarily need to play Age of Calamity to understand it, but you can make that connection a little easier.
I'd like to see that. Like they're foreshadowing something, but you have no idea until you play the actual sequel, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's what that meant." That's gonna be really cool if they do something like that.
It's Nintendo; they can do whatever the heck they want. They do.
Do we want to cover some of the lower points of the game, like camera and weird character?
The camera was awful. I hate when you target a big enemy and it just goes crazy.
Yeah, it gets off you, and you're just like you're just button mashing, and you can't see yourself, but you're just hoping you're hitting them. That was bad. That was really bad. I had that happen on multiple occasions.
That was I hated fighting Hinoxes because they'd like back you into a corner, and then the camera wouldn't adjust, and you're just it's so easy to get lost. And then like another enemy like sideline you, like take you from the side, like clothesline you. Just because you can't see, and the camera will not move and move in a way that is helpful.
Yep, the Ganons, the Blights would do that to me too. I'd get stuck in a corner or something, and I've lost a couple times just because of that happening.
If it was zoomed out just a little bit, that would have helped, but it kept pretty much locked in that one position. So.
Yep.
I can agree to the camera being a pain in the butt in a couple areas. It makes it hard. There's sort of that. I don't know what they call it in this. I want to call it Z targeting just because I'm used to that. You know what I'm talking about. But like certain moves, especially with bosses, would take place. It was hard for me to dodge. I would find myself doing circles around them instead of like, I don't know how to explain it. The camera just it would work against me. I wasn't going in the direction I would think I should be going when I was trying to dodge a move. And I was like, well, I knew what they were about to do. I don't even hardly feel like it was my fault. But yeah, that was definitely one of the harder aspects. We do need to go ahead and wrap it up, so I apologize we can't go into this as deep as I'd like, but is there any favorite side characters you have without going too deep into it that we didn't get to mention?
Nothing I can think of.
I guess an honorable mention, whereas it happens to be like the worst character in the game. I really like that there's flavor text in the game talking about how they basically conned and roped the horse god into helping them out. If you use a special every once in a while, the horse god will pop up and attack, and that's awesome. Like I've always been like a fan of that fairy because it's just so random and out there and so different. And I like that they actually kept him in this game, and it popped up, every once in a while. I wish there was more of him.
Zach, you got anybody?
Hetsu. When he first spoke in the first cutscene,
I love his voice.
What? Oh, really? I did not expect that. I was expecting maybe a slightly deeper voice, but yeah, cool character, neat.
I got the thing. I learned the thing. I love that.
He's a lot of fun.
It was annoying.
I like his dance and all of that.
I don't like to play him, but I really like his voice and just.
I think he's kind of fun to play with. Really, I don't know. He's a little big. I'll go ahead and throw out Terrico. I think is good fun once you get him. The only thing I don't like about him is I do feel like he's a little weak, but
Really?
I may have just
Do you
not.
use his shooting?
Yeah, but I've upgraded it too, but I don't know. I don't think I've used him maybe enough. I've used him a decent bit, but I need to go back and play as him some more.
I used him to take down the 4 blights in that one
Oh
fight.
gosh, that one's a pain in the butt.
I did it with Jericho, and I just shot a lot.
I did it with Link, but okay. But there's actually, you know what? I'm actually going to save one spoiler. I don't know if some of you all even know this. There is actually one more character I do not have unlocked.
Okay.
I know none of us do actually. So look forward to that. But I'll just leave it at that. I won't ruin that one.
Sounds good.
Well, unless there's anything else you all have to add, I think we shall go ahead and wrap this thing up. Been saying we've been getting pretty late for a while. So again, big thanks to Zach for joining us tonight. I'm glad you finally got to join us on an episode.
Glad to be in.
And I hope you get to jump in with us again sometime soon.
I'd love that.
For something or another. And this wasn't even our traditional sort of episode. This was a newer game, but just wanted to get that out there. I felt like there's a lot to talk about, obviously, on it.
Oh, yeah.
Some things we didn't even get to cover. But yeah, hope to have you back on here soon.
Be great.
Jacob and Ryan, if you have anything to add there, or if you don't, I will go ahead and jump on into doing the due diligence as we normally do. Of course, you can find us on all the social medias, mostly on Twitter at Nintendo_Nos, and then on Facebook with Nintendo Nostalgia and the Nintendo Nostalgia Facebook group there. We always have a lot of different discussions and things going on there, so be sure to join us there. We are also on Instagram at Nintendo Nostalgia, so follow us on there as well if you've got it. Until then, we will see you all next time. Y'all have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Later, Preston. Chris just called in too.
He doesn't like me, right? That's what it is.
Because you hit his dog.
I've never met his dog or him.